Chapter 2306, Giving Up. Chapter 2306, Giving Up, Shall we strike? All the cultivators secretly asked themselves. The dragon turtle was taking Yi Futian and the Guqin of Shenin the Great to Ziwei Segmentum. If they delayed making a move on Yi Futian, they would have no opportunity when Yi Futian was in the Ziwei Segmentum. But again, who among them could be sure that they had the ability to deal with the Guqin itself? These top figures hesitated. This Guqin was a real divine item. The strings could move by themselves and play the divine requiem, which ensnared all the top cultivators in that endless sadness. If it could be obtained and controlled, what kind of power would that be? What was more, they had not yet unearthed the secret of Shenin the Great, but Yi Futian may have already done exactly that. A top cultivator from the dark world couldn't wait any longer and struck. He raised his hand to grab at the dragon turtle. Suddenly, a terrible black hole of death appeared in the void, swallowing up everything. This black hole caused a huge vortex to appear in this space. The forward speed of the dragon turtle seemed to be affected as rumbling sounds of horror were heard. This space started to collapse madly. It was as if it was about to shatter completely into nothingness, and the dragon turtle, too, would be swallowed into that darkness. Previously, those who had survived the second divine tribulation of the Great Path had walked directly onto the back of the dragon turtle, wanting to snatch the Guqin. They were attacked by the music and were ensnared in its throes. The fact was that their supreme strength combined was terrifying enough that they could hamper the forward movement of the dragon turtle. Upon seeing this, that Guqin in Yi Futian's arms flew out. It was as the strings were moving by themselves again. A horrific storm of rhythm swept at that top cultivator from the dark world. The invisible rhythmic ripple seemed unstoppable, directly invading the other's mind. In an instant, the sadness that had not completely dissipated rushed into his heart again. The face of the cultivator from the dark world changed. The music from Guqin was still playing, but his figure retreated in a flash, abandoning his attempt to strike. Everyone stared at the Guqin ahead, and it seemed that Lord Luo was right. This Guqin did indeed contain a life force. Coupled with the coercion of the great emperor in its music, it seemed that Shenin the Great indeed existed in yet another form in this world. Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain the phenomenon. It was as if the spirit of Shenin the Great was at work. Did Yi Futian perceive the existence of Shenin the Great? Many cultivators wondered. At this moment, someone else made another move. An extremely tyrannical cultivator from the empty divine realm slashed through the void with his palm, and cracks appeared between heaven and earth. It created a space of exile that swallowed up the road in which the dragon turtle was moving. Instantly, the dragon turtle, which was moving forward, was swallowed up as well. Exile. Yi Futian's eyes sharpened. Judging from his opponent's realm, he could easily destabilize the great path of the original realm, banishing them into a world of nothingness, even opening up a channel to the divine prefecture. Clearly, they were aware that the others wanted them to leave the original realm to be unable to move forward into the starry sky world in Ziwei Segmentum. The cracks in the space expanded, resembling an entrance to darkness, engulfing the gigantic dragon turtle along with the entire ancient city of ruins in tow. Yi Futian and the others instantly entered this unstable spatial crack where the great path. Inside was chaotic and disorderly. This was a land of banishment. It existed only when the space of the original realm was broken, but this place could also lead to the divine prefecture. The dragon turtle moved forward in the dark, but the same rhythm persisted as if guiding its direction. Accompanied by some violent roars, the dragon turtle navigated forward in the crevices of the void, then shuttled around and returned to the land of the original realm. However, along its path, the dark cracks became more and more terrifying, tearing the space apart. In this instant, the ginormous body of the dragon turtle was already in another remote place, much further away, as cultivators chased them from behind. Their expressions were solemn. It seemed that no matter what they did, this dragon turtle would continue to elude them. Elders, let's stop here. If the rhythm is still playing as before, please ask yourselves, if you could, would you retreat under your own power? Yi Futian said loud and clear, the great emperor doesn't care to tarry with all of you like this, But if you insist on this foolery, perhaps you will feel the anger from the great emperor himself." All the cultivators who heard what Yi Futian had to say were stunned, and a great conflict ensued in their hearts. Yi Futian seemed to have indicated that Shinin the Great was still here, alive, existing in the world in another form. He had autonomous consciousness. He could attack them if they continued to be unruly. The great emperor would take action. There was a thoughtful look in their eyes. It was as if they were contemplating the veracity of Yi Futian's words. But in conjunction with everything that happened before, they realized that Yi Futian might not have been lying to them. What he said was probably the truth. The great emperor was still here. Otherwise, none of this made any sense. The great emperor was still here. With the first man of music in ancient times here, how dare they try to seize the guqin? Since the great emperor had already made his own choice, it would be meaningless no matter what they did. It was a foregone conclusion that could no longer be changed. Give up? Many cultivators wondered. In fact, those giants who had not overcome the divine tribulation had already given up. In their previous experience of all that had happened, they knew that it was futile. It was already a great favor bestowed on them to allow them out of that grievous mood, so what other ambitions could they speak of at the moment? Not to mention that as long as there were other tribulation-level cultivators around, it was far from their turn yet. Just as everyone was considering the matter, the dragon turtle marched forward and drove through the boundless void. Over time, the starlight fell from the sky. It seemed as if they had now entered the territory of Ziwei segmentum. At this time, some cultivators stopped and did not continue their pursuit. Later, more people stopped moving forward. As they stopped one by one, they looked further down the road that the dragon turtle was on. They knew that there was no more hope. All they could do was watch the dragon turtle take the guqin, Yi Futian, and the others inside the Ziwei segmentum. In a nutshell, the dragon turtle appeared with the ancient ruins of a city in tow, and Yi Futian was ultimately the only one who benefited from it. For Yi Futian to be the one to take the inheritance of Shinin the Great, what else could anyone say or do? With such a genius talent to exist in the land of the original realm, divine prefecture, the dark world, and the empty divine realm would not be quiet for long. Sooner or later, the cultivators in those worlds would meet him somewhere, somehow. "Let's go," someone said, then turned to leave. After that, many powerful cultivators left one by one. There was no point in staying here any longer. They had already entered Ziwei segmentum. What else could they do now? After they left, the dragon turtle descended on Ziwei Imperial Star. Soon, the news began to spread wildly in the original realm. Yi Futian, the college chief of Heavenly Mandate Academy and the palace lord of Ziwei Imperial Palace, had obtained the inheritance of yet another great emperor after Xinjia the Great Emperor and Ziwei the Great. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2307. Changes in Original Realm. Chapter 2307. Changes in Original Realm's Starry Sky World. Ziwei Cultivation Court. Beneath the boundless starry sky, Yi Futian sat cross-legged in a quiet location. Surrounded by stars, Yi Futian, who was fully bathed in the starlight, seemed extremely holy. In front of him lay the guqin that he named Yearning. At this moment, traces of rhythmic divine light continuously wafted out from the instrument, connecting with Yi Futian at his brow chakra so that his entire body was enveloped by the rhythmic divine light. In his mind, more and more memories presented themselves, and most of them were connected with music scores and the moods contained in each piece of the music. Shinin the Great was the first man of music in his era. His attainments in music were so superior that few in history could be named along with him, either in ancient times or modern. Naturally, he was not only known for the Divine Requiem. The Divine Requiem was a shocking composition created after his own experience of great sorrow. However, even before that, he was already a master of countless pieces of music, some of which were extremely powerful, and their influence was not much weaker than that of the Divine Requiem. Now, Shinin the Great was ready to pass on all this to Yi Futian when he regained consciousness again. He promised Yi Futian the Guqin for 300 years. In return, Yi Futian would escort him home. Although Yi Futian was still unclear on the actual meaning of these words from Shinin the Great, he was not about to pursue them if the great emperor himself didn't deign to clarify. For him, the priority was to focus on his own cultivation. Now that he had control over Ziwei Segmentum and the original realm, he felt the pressure acutely. It was not enough for him to be a mere upper Renhuang. He needed a stronger realm of cultivation. Day by day, Yi Futian had been receiving the inheritance of the Guqin, and countless memories appeared in his mind. After a long while, the divine light on the Guqin gradually dimmed, and the strings stopped moving as the divine light went out. However, Yi Futian didn't stop cultivating. He sat there quietly, and he continued to be surrounded by the light of the rhythm. He needed time to perceive and digest the rhythmic way passed on to him by Shinin the Great. There were so many exquisite pieces of Guqin music that he needed time to sort them out in his head. In the ground below, many looked up at Yi Futian. Those who could cultivate in the Starry Sky Cultivation Court were close confidants, as well as allies. As they witnessed Yi Futian inherit the power from Shinin the Great, they couldn't help but wonder what lied ahead for this young man. The sword goddess of divine palace of fluttering snow raised her head to look at Yi Futian. Ning Yuan, I am afraid things will not be quiet for long. Previously at the Donghua banquet, they knew very well how Ning Yuan, the domain chief of the domain chief's manor, had treated Yi Futian. Ning Hua hunted Yi Futian relentlessly and almost succeeded in killing him. Today, the power that was within Yi Futian's control was far above that of the Donghua domain chief's manor. If Yi Futian wanted to settle these old scores, he could do so now by heading over to Donghua domain in the Divine Prefecture. However, that was the domain chief's manor under the rule of the great emperor. Presumably, Yi Futian had some concerns as well, so he wouldn't act rashly. However, with his talent and potential, he may very well stand at the top in the future. As long as nothing happened to him, this debt would be settled sooner rather than later. At that time, the domain chief's manor in the Donghua domain would be greatly endangered. As the current situation stood, Ning Hua, known as the #1 genius of Donghua domain, was hard-pressed to contend with Yi Futian. Aside from all the things that had happened in the past, it should not be too difficult for Yi Futian to kill Ning Hua. There were too many means and power under Yi Futian's control, and Ning Hua had none of these. In the Starry Sky world, everyone was quietly cultivating, perceiving the power of the imperial star. Many had made progress. Especially cultivators compatible with the power of the imperial star made progress much faster than the others. Several months had passed, and Yi Futian stopped cultivating and started walking downward. There were familiar faces all around him. Someone walked towards Yi Futian. Lord Luo was heard asking Yi Futian, "How was it?" Shinin the Great was the first man of music in the ancient era. The rhythm technique he cultivated is far too sophisticated for me to fully control and absorb for the time being. These past few months have been far from adequate. I am afraid that I will need to cultivate and comprehend frequently in the future, said Yi Futian. When he heard those words, Lord Luo knew that Yi Futian had completely inherited the musical inheritance of Shinin the Great. How much help would Yi Futian receive from this first man in music from ancient times? No one from the same generation as Yi Futian could compare with him just on the way of rhythm alone. Fang Gai and Blind Tai came over as well. Although they were from Four Corner Village, they had regarded themselves as members of the Heavenly Mandate Academy after choosing to follow Yi Futian. Since Yi Futian was the center, whether it was the village or Heavenly Mandate Academy, or even Ziwei Imperial Palace, they would be part of Yi Futian's power in the future. They knew this very well. How is it outside? Asked Yi Futian. Not so quiet, Fang Gai replied. Since the dragon turtle dragged you to the Ziwei segmentum, the news had shaken the original realm, and many cultivators from those top principalities wanted to visit you again. However, because you were not here, they were turned away. But judging from their intentions, it looks like they want to get close to you. At the moment, Yi Futian was the most prestigious figure in the original realm. He had unlimited potential. Naturally, there would be forces from Divine Prefecture who wanted to befriend him. Everyone could see that Yi Futian was definitely regarded as one of the most enchanting genius existences in the divine prefecture and maybe even the entire world. His growth was akin to the journey of those other major figures. If the divine prefecture is not aligned to deal with the dark world, what good does it do to befriend me? Yi Futian responded. Unless, of course, they could unite all the principalities and launch a war against the dark world. Well, forget about this for now. There is something else. As soon as the dragon turtle incident happened, more cultivators came from the divine prefecture, the dark world, and the empty divine realm. Those top figures never left either. They began to search for the ancient relics in the boundless void of the original realm as if wanting to re-excavate the mysteries of the original realm. Fongai continued, and this time, it is said that several principalities have already rediscovered the relics of ancient times. As if it has been destined that as the entire original realm is changing, ancient ruins are also reappearing one after the another. Yi Futian's expression grew somber. Would more relics appear? And it seemed that there was more than just the one. The original realm was the interface that formed after the collapse of the heavenly path. It seemed reasonable for ancient relics to emerge. Ziwei the Great and Shenin the Great had all appeared in the original realm. The change of heaven and earth originated in the original realm. It seems that this prophecy is not false after all, Lord Luo murmured. Yi Futian's eye drifted toward Lord Luo and he asked, "Where did that prophecy come from?" "I don't know." Lord Luo shook his head. But now, cultivators in the divine prefecture and other worlds have all heard such prophesy, or else the top cultivators from other major worlds would not have descended in the land of the original realm. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2308, Intensified Changes. Chapter 2308, Intensified Changes. Before Yi Futian returned from the divine prefecture, the original realm had been changing as cultivators from all over the world began to descend. Now, because there were imperial-level relics that surfaced successively in the original realm, top figures had begun to actively search for them in the original realm. The 3,000 realms of the Great Path of the original realm were now under Yi Futian's control. What happened at the infernal divine clan in the dark world had shocked the cultivators from all sides. Now, no principalities dared to wreak havoc lightly in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Therefore, they could only circulate in other places in the void outside the world of 3,000 realms of the Great Path. And now, many more relics had emerged one after the other. Were they being excavated? Yi Futian couldn't help but feel emotional. What kind of a world was it like before the collapse of the heavenly path? That era was known as the Age of the Gods, and presumably, it was much easier to cultivate then than it was today. Even powerful characters were far from what could be compared to today. However, a catastrophe caused the heavenly path to collapse and the gods to perish. Before the original realm, there was the world of the heavenly path. The existence of so many relics was reasonable, but it was not easy to fully excavate all of them. Even in the long history, many secrets had yet to be unearthed. "Let's go back to the academy," Yi Futian said. Although he had not yet fully understood all the inheritance of Shenin the Great, it was already imprinted in his mind. He thought of continuing to cultivate in the starry sky world and improve himself. Even cultivating for a period of time would help him elevate his realm and enter the 8th realm. But the current changes that occurred within the original realm were something he wanted to witness. The so-called change in heavenly path originated in the original realm. In which direction would the original realm change? Several people who were around nodded. There were indeed some differences in the original realm of today. Yi Futian was now the leader of the local forces in the original realm, and he should really go back and look things over. Furthermore, those willing to cultivate with Yi Futian hoped to witness a legend in the making. The change of heaven and earth originated in the original realm. For Yi Futian, he would be the king of the original realm. So would he be the main player behind this prophecy? Naturally, The cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Academy had such expectations. And Yi Futian himself had already revealed this kind of talent. Yi Futian walked down with many cultivators in tow. Yi Futian's every move now inevitably affected many people, and many top-level cultivators were moving along with him. The most obvious ones among them were Old Ma and Blind Tai. These two top cultivators from Four Corner Village followed Yi Futian wherever he went, always guarding his side. Even the top figures from the Heavenly Mandate Academy were hard-pressed to be as devoted as these two. Perhaps it was because the two wanted to repay Yi Futian, Old Ma for Little Ling, and as for Blind Tai, Yi Futian had bestowed him with an even greater favor. After he stepped onto the peak of Renhuang and exacted his revenge, Blind Tai had pledged himself completely to Yi Futian. As for those companions with weaker cultivation, such as Gu Donglu, Yi Wuchen, and the others, Yi Futian did not want them to move around so freely, instead having them stay in the Starry Sky world in retreat to concentrate on cultivation and improve their realms. After all, everyone fighting in the original realm now were giant-level figures. The least of them were cultivators at the peak of Upper Renhuang. Cultivators of any lower realms were not qualified to participate. The Heavenly Mandate Academy. Yi Futian and the others descended as they made their way back to the academy. A scan of his divine consciousness through the academy revealed that everyone in the academy was focusing on cultivating. Yi Futian smiled. Currently, the Heavenly Mandate Academy was the absolute core of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, and it is premier holy land with a completely new look. The cultivators who came to the academy worked extremely hard, looking forward to the day they could enter the Starry Sky world to cultivate. Yi Futian's figure flashed and arrived at a place. Brother-in-law, Huan Yinyu called out with a smile. Lord Taixin was by her side. You are bothering Lord Taixin again. Yi Futian looked at Yinyu and smiled. Not at all. I am keeping Grandpa Xian company, Huan Yinyu said with a smile. That's right. Yinyu often chats with me so I won't be bored, Lord Taixin replied, smiling as he peered at Yi Futian. So were you able to control the inheritance power of Shenyin the Great? Shenyin the Great had much wonderful divine music to pass down, and it will take time to master them all. Yi Futian continued, I heard that some changes took place in the original realm, so I came back to the academy. Is Lord Taixin aware of what is going on outside? I know some of them. Lord Taixin nodded. It is said that several major forces have discovered the relics in the boundless space. Some relics were hidden between cracks in the space and have now been excavated. Some places, even ancient continents, have been discovered. Many forces from the outside world have shifted their attentions from the 3,000 realms of the Great Path to the endless world of the Void, looking for other discoveries. There have been many cultivators who came here to search before. Why did this happen all of a sudden? Yi Futian asked, a little puzzled as he was truly stumped. That is so. Lord Taixin nodded in agreement. At this moment, someone else arrived, and it was Emperor Nan. He said, it may have something to do with the changes in heaven and earth. I don't know why, but some changes are taking place in the original realm. Those changes had already begun before your return to the original realm. Before, when the dragon turtle carried Shenyin the Great, nothing of this sort had happened. But they appeared all of a sudden without warning. It was as if it was destined. What force is leading this kind of change? Yi Futian asked. He really didn't understand. The original realm was the world of the heavenly path once, the old world. After its collapse, everything turned to dust. Back then, the only place discovered was the 3,000 realms of the Great Path as a place of cultivation. So where were the relics that now reappeared in the void? Where were they hiding before? They hadn't been unearthed for many years. But why did they suddenly reappear now? Emperor Nan looked deep in thought. It was as if he was considering something. But still, he shook his head and said, I don't know. What he suspected seemed a little far-fetched and without basis. If that were the case, what was the reason? He couldn't understand this himself, and there was no way to affirm his suspicions, so he didn't say anything to Yi Futian. In that case, the changes in the original realm may continue to intensify in the future? Yi Futian queried. Emperor Nan nodded. If this continues to evolve, the changes in the original realm may indeed continue to increase in intensity. Futian frowned when he heard what Emperor Nen said. He seemed a little worried. The original realm has now attracted top figures from all parts of the world. If this change continues, I am afraid that the original realm will become a super battlefield, as it was in ancient times, and the cultivators from all worlds will compete in the original realm. I don't know what will happen then, Futian said in a low voice. Emperor Nen nodded in agreement. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 2309. Above Expectations? Chapter 2309. Above Expectations. Futian and the others did not leave immediately after they returned to the academy. Although it was rumored that many relics appeared in the original realm, Futian knew he couldn't take them all. Now the changes in the entire original realm intensified, with more and more relics surfacing. If he were to grab everything out there, it would almost certainly cause public outrage and create enemies out of the whole world. Take the current situation, for instance. He had the inheritance from several great emperors, thus becoming the focus of many powerful cultivators. If it weren't for the teacher who stood behind him, these top forces would have already attacked him and the Heavenly Mandate Academy. They wouldn't be waiting so docilely in the starry sky world for him to cultivate in peace. One principality wouldn't be capable of dealing with him, but what if they combine their forces? If they couldn't go to the starry sky world to challenge him, it certainly wouldn't be a problem for them to challenge Heavenly Mandate Academy. Futian knew very well that he had to give up some of the opportunities to other principalities in a situation like this instead of swallowing them all. However, Futian had also dispatched cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Academy to go out and assess the current state of affairs in the outside world. Even if they were not planning to take action now, they must monitor the current movement of the original realm. Now that he had complete control over the 9 supreme regions, he also had eyes and ears in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, so he had an idea of everything that was happening. However, to know the occurrences in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path and beyond, messengers had to be sent out. At present, all that was known had been spread far and wide. Perhaps some had discovered the relics while they were exploring, but they did not make it public. After all, no one wanted to attract even more rivals to this competition. Futian's circumstances were, in fact, a microcosm of all the forces in the entire original realm. All the forces had begun to mobilize, as the entire original realm was developing in this unknown direction. At this time, somewhere inside the original realm, suddenly heaven and earth underwent a terrible and violent change. This space began to collapse as a terrible dark vortex manifested. Later, a bright and brilliant divine light shot out from it as a group of people appeared with the divine light and stepped out of the vortex. The temperament of this group of people was extraordinary, and one single glance revealed that all of them were unusual, to say the least. They surveyed their surroundings, and their leader was heard marveling, "The original realm. This must be the world before the collapse of the heavenly path." An old man next to him nodded. It was extremely fortunate that some of these relics had been preserved and that they had not vanished in the destruction once upon a time. The top figure who cleft open the space in the void waited quietly beside him, watching a majestic and massive city gradually reveal itself. The entire original realm was constantly changing. The prophecy regarding the changes between heaven and earth originating in the original realm began to spread. By now, they were known to just about everyone. People started to believe in the prophecy. All the changes in the original realm made those powerful major forces tremble. Even the cultivators from the 3,000 realms of the Great Path had heard of this prophecy, and their hearts were greatly disturbed. No one knew what the original realm would look like in the future. In the cottage inside the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Futian was cultivating here when a group of men arrived. They were cultivators such as Old Ma, Emperor Nan, Xiao Dingtian, and the clan lord of the Dou tribe. All of them came from the outside. "What has happened to stir all the elders thus?" asked Yi Futian as he detected the solemn expressions on the faces of several top Renhuang. The changes that have taken place in the original realm now far exceed our expectations, and there are more and more ancient relics appearing in various places, Emperor Nan said to Yi Futian. Yi Futian's eyes sharpened when he heard this. If Emperor Nan said so, the changes in the outside world must have been drastic enough to cause Emperor Nan's concern. In addition, the cultivators from the outside world have arrived. As far as Divine Prefecture is concerned, it is said that Ancient God Clan has arrived, Emperor Nan continued. Yi Futian's eye focused a bit more as he whispered, the Ancient God Clan? Yes, the Ancient God Clan. The Ancient God Clan that has lived on for countless centuries produced deities and still holds the heirs of the remains of the gods, who are qualified to be called the Ancient God Clan. They are the true power that stands at the peak. Even the imperial palace has to pay them proper respect, said Emperor Nan. Yi Futian, in turn, was quite uneasy when he heard what Emperor Nan had to say. It seemed that this time, all parts of the world had been disrupted. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. When Yi Futian was at the Heavenly Mandate Academy, some top forces from Divine Prefecture had come to visit him. However, as he was in no mood to socialize, he gave Old Ma the task to receive them in his stead. When Yi Futian was at the Heavenly Mandate Academy, some top forces from Divine Prefecture had come to visit him. However, as he was in no mood to socialize, he gave Old Ma the task to receive them in his stead. The truth was Yi Futian needn't care much about these visitors anymore, especially those common forces at the top. With the power that was currently in the hands of the Academy, coupled with his own status today, even peak Renhuangs with perfect great paths did not have much to brag about in front of him. However, at this time, Yi Futian personally received a group of visitors who were old acquaintances. More than 20 years ago, these cultivators from Song Imperial City of Divine Prefecture had sought out Yi Futian. At the time, they wanted to take over the Heavenly Mandate Academy and force Yi Futian to cooperate with them, thus making Heavenly Mandate Academy a representative branch of Song Imperial City in the original realm. However, their overture was rebuffed by Yi Futian. And now Yi Futian's status was no longer that of 20 years ago, and the Heavenly Mandate Academy was no longer like it had been. The cultivators from Song Imperial City came with sincerity to form an alliance, without any ambitions as they had in the past. The Yi Futian of today was someone that all the cultivators from Divine Prefecture desired to befriend. At the same time, in some other location, a group of cultivators materialized in the void. This group of people had astonishing aura, and were all dressed in black, looking serious and solemn. The man leading the group did not appear to be his senior. He looked like he was only 30 years or so, but his actual age in cultivation was something else entirely. There was a sense of dominance in those dark eyes of his, which emitted a strong sense of coercion. The aura of all the cultivators around him was incredibly frightening, as every one of them was a top-notch character. No matter which world, few major forces could come up with such an astounding display of power. Now that great changes are taking place in the original realm, rumor has it that there are many ancient relics in the void world outside the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. I wonder what will we encounter? A cultivator in all black asked. His voice was low and reverent. After so many years, I didn't expect that the original realm would change so drastically. The changes of heaven and earth arise in the original realm. I would like to know just how the original realm will dominate these changes of heaven and earth. Someone else spoke up as they looked at the young man in the lead. But the young man looked down to glance at the boundless void below and said, "Let's go to the Heavenly Mandate Realm first." The Heaven Mandate Realm. The cultivators behind him looked puzzled, but the young man nodded and continued, "The Heaven Mandate Realm, the Heavenly Mandate Academy, to see someone." Many around him didn't understand his intentions. Only a very special few knew the reason behind the youth's intention to go to the Heavenly Mandate Academy to meet this special someone. This was a top secret, and few were privy to this information. Mei Ting. Where is he? Someone asked, referring to the devil general from the devil world, Mei Ting. He should be in the heavenly mandate realm, the young man replied. Let's go. When he finished speaking, his figure floated forward, turning into a black light that moved at an incredible speed. The rest of the cultivators caught up with him, following along. In the heavenly mandate realm, Mei Ting did not fight and search for these ancient relics. He was still drinking within the bounds of the heavenly mandate city, much like a hopeless drunkard. However, only he himself knew that although the wine was good, he didn't really drink it for the taste. He was staying in the heavenly mandate city for himself. He wanted to know certain things, which he still had no clue about. Perhaps time would give him the answer he sought. Suddenly, Mei Ting peered into the sky above, and his face revealed some surprise, and his eyes betrayed his emotions. He saw a group of men clad in black descended from the firmament, coming directly toward him as they landed above the tavern. The tavern seemed to feel that coercion. Everyone inside fell into dead silence. Mei Ting's gaze was directed at the young man and the cultivators who surrounded him. He said, "You have arrived as well." The changes in the original realm had even attracted people from the devil world. "Mei Ting, you are having a good time," a demonic cultivator commented. These cultivators were from the devil world, and like Mei Ting, they were from the devil imperial palace. All of them were supreme cultivators in the devil world. "Are you here for the relics of the original realm?" asked Mei Ting. Everyone nodded. The young demonic cultivator in the lead took a meaningful look at Mei Ting, then turned his gaze to the far distance where a majestic and imposing structure stood. "That must be the Heavenly Mandate Academy, right?" the young man asked. Mei Ting looked at him, then in the direction of Heavenly Mandate Academy. He knew what the other was thinking. He responded, "It is indeed." "Indeed, Mr. Mei is in the mood." The young man smiled and said, "Cultivators from all sides are busy looking for relics, but you, sir, are here drinking and enjoying the view of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Can you enlighten us as to your fascination with this place?" "No fascination to speak of, I'm just bored," Mei Ting replied casually. This young man was rather special. He held superior status in the devil world as one of Devil Emperor's direct disciples. However, as one of the devil generals himself, Mei Ting's status was not any lesser than the young man's, so he didn't bother affording the other with particular courtesy. Furthermore, the cultivators from the devil world were somewhat different. The rule where the weak were preyed upon by the strong was more pronounced in their world. There were not many politics involved. Only strength was the true metric for everything. As long as one was strong enough, one need not worry about offending anyone else. In the devil world, conflicts and frictions between cultivators who cultivated together in the devil imperial palace were commonplace. Bored? The young demonic cultivator smiled and continued, "Perhaps it is because Mr. Mei is more interested in that academy. I have heard some things in the devil world. Now that I am here in the original realm, I plan to visit their young king." When he finished speaking, he levitated into the air and headed towards the Heavenly Mandate Academy. All the cultivators from the devil world followed his lead. Mei Ting didn't try to stop them when he saw this but allowed the others to do as they pleased. He wasn't too worried about anything, as he knew the true strength that Heavenly Mandate Academy held currently. In truth, he was rather expectant of any potential conflicts. It would make things that much more interesting. Picking up the wine cup, Mei Ting drained another cup of wine, but his eyes were still focused on what was ahead. The real reason for that young man to come here to meet him was not Futian, the young king of the original realm, as he called him. He thought that it must be because of Yu Sheng. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Futian was receiving the cultivators from Song Imperial City. At this time, they seemed to have perceived something as they raised their heads, looking towards the void. They saw that many top figures in the academy had risen into the sky, a grave expression on their faces. They were focusing on a group of cultivators in black that appeared above the firmament. They had sensed traces of oppression, indicating that these visitors were uncommonly powerful. The cultivators from Song Imperial City were equally alarmed when they saw this group of people. The old man who was in the lead was a little surprised. The cultivators from the devil world had also arrived, and they had come to the Heavenly Mandate Academy first. Yi Futian directed his attention there and saw the young man who was in the lead. The two locked eyes, and Yi Futian felt a sense of hostility from the other. He was a little curious. Who was this person? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2311. Disciple of the Devil Emperor. Chapter 2311. Disciple of the Devil Emperor. Yi Futian sensed the demonic might that circled this group of people. From it, he roughly guessed where this group had come from. Although Yi Futian did not know the identity of the young demonic cultivator before him, there was no doubt that his group was from the devil world. Otherwise, the entire group would not have such an intense demonic aura. The cultivators of the Song Imperial City glanced at Yi Futian. They recalled that Mei Ting had also previously come to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Why had the Devil World cultivators not searched for the relic but instead came here to find Yi Futian? From the expression in the leading youth's eyes, they were clearly here for him. Could it be that there was some hidden secret behind this? The youth walked down towards Yi Futian. Blind Tai, Old Ma, and the others came forward to block him off, but Yi Futian waved his hand slightly. Blind Tai and the others stepped down and did not block the youth from the devil world, allowing him to descend and land not far from Yi Futian. The demonic youth said, "College Chief of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Palace Lord of Ziwei Imperial Palace, the current ruler of the original realm, the top monstrous figure in the original realm who obtained the sacred remains of Xinjia the Great Emperor and the teachings of Great Emperor Ziwei and Shiyin the Great, Yi Futian." He seemed to know Yi Futian quite well. The youth from the devil world already knew all the things that Yi Futian had been through. Yi Futian looked at the other party. The cultivators from the devil world who had appeared in the original realm before this mainly consisted of Mei Ting. Yi Futian also had some interactions with him. However, that was mainly due to Yu Sheng. Yi Futian never imagined that there were others in the devil world who paid so much attention to him. It seemed that Yu Sheng's status in the devil world was extraordinary. Otherwise, this youth would not pay so much attention to Yi Futian's existence. After all, from the looks of this lineup, the youth from the devil world in front of him should be an extraordinary figure in the devil world. "Who are you, sir?" asked Yi Futian. "I am Xiao Mu from the devil world," replied the youth. Yi Futian might not be aware of the significance of that name, but in the devil world, this name was already renowned far and wide. He was one of the direct disciples of the Devil Emperor. He had powerful cultivation and extraordinary status. A direct disciple of the Devil Emperor might inherit the title themselves one day. Whoever was the strongest would have the highest possibility of inheriting it. "Xiao Mu," Yi Futian mumbled to himself. He did not know much about the devil world, so he naturally had not heard of his name. However, from the lineup before him, Yi Futian had his suspicions. He said, "Are you a cultivator from Devil Imperial Palace?" "I am a disciple of the Devil Emperor," Xiao Mu replied. The expression of the surrounding cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy immediately turned serious. Compared to the monstrous figures from the Divine Prefecture who came before, the identity of this youth before them was even more spectacular. Who would dare to offend a disciple of the Devil Emperor so curtly? Even though Yi Futian had the backing of Master from Four Corner Village, with the other party's status, it was worthless in their eyes. Why had such a figure come here? Yi Futian nodded his head slightly. He had a rough guess as to why Xiao Mu had come. Now, Yi Futian was somewhat curious. What was his godfather's status in the devil world? What about Yu Sheng's status? Now, he was certain that his godfather was a cultivator from the devil world. However, Yi Futian did not know why his godfather had taken care of Yu Sheng and him. What secrets were involved in this? What happened 300 years ago? Yi Futian believed that it would not be long before he would stumble upon the truth. After all, he could now come in contact with figures at the very top. Even a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor had come looking for him. When Yi Futian reached the peak of the Renhuang Plain, he would probably have the opportunity to meet the figures at the very top. "What business do you have with the Heavenly Mandate Academy?" Yi Futian asked as he looked up at Xiao Mu. His voice was very calm. Xiaomu gave Yi Futian a somewhat strange look. He seemed to look highly upon Yi Futian, as expected of the current top monstrous figure of the original realm. Even after hearing who Xiaomu was, he had actually remained unshaken and was still calm. The white-haired youth before him was an extremely proud figure. "I merely came to see what sort of person the young ruler of the original realm is like," said Xiaomu. As he said this, his jet-black eyes became intense. They were a pair of demonic eyes. He looked towards Yi Futian as demonic might circled around his own figure. A powerful demonic aura flowed frenziedly and began to spread out around him. There was one part that Xiaomu had not said out loud. He wanted to see what sort of person that fellow's best friend was like and where level his cultivation and abilities were. Yi Futian looked at the other party's eyes. The pair of deep, demonic eyes was terrifying. They bore endless overbearing pressure. A vast pressure pressed down on Yi Futian's will. He was put into a hallucination. The person before him was no longer an approachable youth but instead a demon. It stood there towering above all things, gazing down on all existence. The demon faced Yi Futian, and its overbearing pressure pressed down on him. The demonic might could crush a person's will. Divine light similarly shot out from Yi Futian's eyes. It was dazzling. Even amidst the hallucination, Yi Futian stood on his spot quietly. The divine light flowed around him. His white hair and white robe accentuated his unparalleled temperament. It was as though he was a deity. Even when faced with the pressure from a demon, he remained unperturbed, and his facial expression was calm. The overbearing demonic might did not have any effect on him. Yi Futian had experienced many things to reach his current plane of cultivation. He had faced the might of the will of the great emperors many times. He couldn't be crushed by Xiaomu's will. Even though Xiaomu's will was domineering, it alone was not enough to cause Yi Futian's will to be shaken. The surrounding cultivators all stood silently as they watched the two figures facing each other head-on. One had black hair and was garbed in a black robe, while the other had white hair and was garbed in a white robe. Both of them were equally outstanding. Their robes fluttered in the wind. They seemed to be looking at each other casually. However, a powerful gale was forming around them and stirring up debris. Their gazes alone contained such astonishing might. Even the top cultivators could faintly sense a pressure acting on them. They unleashed their auras of the great path to block the gale from spreading outwards. Otherwise, the Heavenly Mandate Academy would most likely be ruined by this raging gale. In the distance, Mei Ting glanced in their direction. As he had speculated, Xiaomu was here to check Yi Futian out. Xiaomu was most likely curious about Yi Futian's ability. Xiaomu was naturally doing this because of Yu Sheng. Rumble. Suddenly, a stronger gale swept out. The demonic might churned and roared. An extremely overbearing aura gushed towards Yi Futian. At the same time, the divine light on Yi Futian's body grew brighter. Intense rumbling could be heard coming from his body of the great path. The gale became more and more violent and enveloped both of them in it. One by one, the top figures in the Heavenly Mandate Academy unleashed their auras. They shielded the entire Heavenly Mandate Academy in a light shroud. The next moment, Xiaomu and Yi Futian shot up into the sky. Their speed was frightening. They were akin to two beams of light that shot up into the heavens. They were high above in the sky in an instant. Their raging auras of the great path exploded, expanding towards the Heavenly Mandate City. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 23:12, Demonic Form and Divine Body. Chapter 23:12, Demonic Form and Divine Body. Xiaomu was an 8th-tier Renhuang and a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor. Yi Futian was a 7th-tier Renhuang. He controlled the sacred remains of Xinjia the Great Emperor. He was also the inheritor of the teachings of Great Emperor Zui and Shenyin the Great. One was a top-level monstrous figure of the devil world who was approaching the pinnacle. Another was the top monstrous figure of the original realm and the most prominent figure in the realm at the moment. The two of them suddenly confronted each other, standing across each other in the sky. Prior to this, There had been no premonition of a fight. With just an exchange of glances, they seemed to understand the other party's intention. Be it Xiao Mu or the current Yi Futian, both of them had terrifying cultivation. The auras that the two of them released kept expanding, enveloping the vast space. All around the heavenly mandate city, countless people looked up into the sky. Their hearts were trembling intensely. Someone had actually come to challenge Yi Futian? For the people of the heavenly mandate realm, Yi Futian was already a legendary figure. He was the object of the faith of countless people, especially the cultivators from the younger generation. They worshipped him like a deity, and he was the goal that countless people pursued. He had pulled off too many miracles. The black-robed demonic cultivator was also extremely frightening. Who was he to dare challenge the current Yi Futian? I cultivated in the devil world for more than 80 years. I joined Devil Imperial Palace when I was 30 and was later accepted by the Devil Emperor as a direct disciple. Now, I am an 8th-tier demonic emperor. In terms of cultivation plane, I hold a slight advantage over you. I will hold back a little, Xiao Mu said as he looked at the figure standing across from him. His voice was overbearing and imposing. It contained an intense self-confidence. He claimed that he would hold back a little in his fight against Yi Futian and that he did not want to hold an advantage in terms of cultivation. Yi Futian's white robe danced in the sky. His expression was still calm. He looked at the other party and said, "There is no need to do so. I have cultivated for almost the same amount of time as you. Although my cultivation is at the 7th tier Renhuang plane, I have yet to encounter an equal match at the same tier. So, you don't have to hold back." Even when faced with a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor who was at a higher level than him, Yi Futian was still confident that he could put up a good fight against the other party. His confidence stirred up the emotions of countless cultivators in the heavenly mandate city. The demonic cultivator was actually a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor from the Devil world. Existences at his level were all cultivators who stood at the pinnacle of the cultivation world. Even so, Yi Futian, who had a lower plane of cultivation, was still confident that he could put up a fight against Xiao Mu. Perhaps Xiao Mu would be the strongest opponent that Yi Futian had faced so far. Mei Ting, who was drinking wine in a tavern in the distance, looked in their direction too. He was also very interested in the battle. Yi Futian was a legendary figure that Yu Xing willingly followed. Mei Ting wanted to see for himself how strong Yi Futian currently was. Xiao Mu would most likely be a huge challenge for Yi Futian. As one of the 8 great devil generals in the devil world, Mei Ting was well aware of the ability of the direct disciples of the Devil Emperor. Those monstrous figures in the outer realms could not hold a candle to them. Being a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor meant that Xiao Mu received personal instruction from the Devil Emperor. Xiao Mu's demonic art was taught by the Devil Emperor. The top figures from the Heavenly Mandate Academy had serious expressions too. They also realized how powerful Yi Futian's opponent was. Xiao Mu was someone extraordinary even for them. It was rare for them to encounter a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor. The status of Xiao Mu was similar to that of Spear Emperor Du, who came to the original realm more than 20 years ago with Princess Donghuang. Spear Emperor Du was a direct disciple of Donghuang the Great. The Devil Emperor, who dwelled far in the devil world, was a mighty legendary figure. How strong would his disciple be? The auras emanating from Yi Futian and Xiao Mu grew more and more frightening. The demonic might roared and churned. At the same time, intense rumbling of the great path could be heard from Yi Futian's body. His body turned into the way and became the divine body of the great path. It was domineering. In the previous battles, the Renhuangs at the same tier as Yi Futian could not withstand a blow from his flesh. One could imagine how menacing the divine body, which Yi Futian inherited from Shunjia the Great Emperor, was. Seemingly sensing the terror of Yi Futian's flesh, Xiao Mu's body was also metamorphosing. His demonic form was instantly covered with terrifying lightning. Black and purple divine lights gathered and merged with his body. One could sense the power of his flesh even better with their will. His flesh was fully charged with overbearing, destructive power. The gazes of the cultivators from the Song Imperial City narrowed when they saw this scene. The cultivators from the Divine Prefecture were rather unfamiliar with the Devil Emperor. However, those long-standing top forces from the Divine Prefecture heard rumors about the Devil Emperor before. An elder said, "Rumor has it that the Devil Emperor is a one-in-a-million genius in the devil world. He has created many demonic arts which are unprecedented and unsurpassable. He is a bona fide legend. The demonic arts which he created are all top demonic techniques in the world. They are the pinnacle of demonic techniques. Furthermore, it is said that the Devil Emperor suits his teaching in accordance with his students' aptitude. Based on the cultivation of each demonic cultivator, he teaches them different demonic arts so that the demonic arts are compatible with the learners." The elder looked at the sky and continued, "Rumor has it that all the disciples of the current Devil Emperor have inherited very formidable power. Since this Xiao Mu is one of his direct disciples, he must have inherited some form of demonic art from the Devil Emperor. I'm curious to find out how strong he is." The facial expressions of many top figures from the Heavenly Mandate Academy turned solemn when they heard the elder's words. They were not sure how strong the Devil Emperor was. However, the Devil Emperor was the one who ended the chaos in the devil world. He was the legendary figure who united and ruled over the entire devil world. His name was on par with that of Dong Huang the Great. He was one of the very few cultivators who stood at the peak. How strong would his direct disciple be? Even though they had lots of confidence in Yi Futian, they were still uncertain about whether or not he could surpass the difference between their planes and win the fight against this direct disciple of the Devil Emperor. The top figures would not have worried about Yi Futian if his opponent was not a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor, but instead a direct disciple of any of the top forces from the Divine Prefecture. After all, the direct disciples of the top forces paled into insignificance compared with the direct disciples of the Devil Emperor. Xiao Mu's gaze was locked on Yi Futian. Both of them could sense how powerful the flesh of their opponent was. One was a demonic form, while the other was a divine body surrounded by endless runes and divine light. "Let me experience how powerful the body of the great path inherited from Shenjia the great emperor is," Xiao Mu said loudly. His voice was deep and resonant. It caused the space to shake. He took a step forward. He didn't unleash any demonic arts. Instead, he intended to clash into Yi Futian head-on with his flesh. His super-demonic form was also an inheritance from the Devil Emperor. He refined it with demonic lightning to create his own demonic form of the Great Path. He had successfully forged the super-destructive heavenly demon form. Each and every disciple of the Devil Emperor had to cultivate the super-demonic form. Then, they had to merge it with their own flesh to create their own demonic form. The demonic cultivators were very particular about the cultivation of their bodies. Without strong flesh, it was hard for them to unleash the might of the demonic arts. As a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor, Xiao Mu had cultivated his body to its utmost limit. His body was domineering. When Xiao Mu stepped forward, the entire sky shook and thundered. The demonic might churned and exerted great pressure on everyone else. Yi Futian's flesh was almost invincible. Since he had forged the divine body, he had not met anyone who could battle him with their flesh alone. However, now that he was facing Xiao Mu, even he felt a sense of pressure. It made him recall the initial sensation when he first met Yu Sheng. Yu Sheng's body was very strong. Aside from his demonic art cultivation, it was also due to his innate abilities. Having cultivated in the devil world, Yu Sheng's body must have been trained to an even more terrifying level. Yi Futian wondered how Yu Sheng's cultivation was progressing now. However, Yi Futian was not worried about Yu Sheng's cultivation at all. That fellow would certainly not fall behind. His figure pounced forward, and he also stepped out. Both of them did not unleash law power attacks. Instead, they walked straight towards each other. Even so, before they even clashed, an extremely ferocious storm swept out. Intense rumbling of the great path filled the skies. The rumbling caused many cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy down below to have goosebumps as they watched the terrifying scene in the sky above. Was this the strength of the flesh that could be achieved by a cultivator? Even the giant-level figures were astonished. Ren Huangchen stood out to protect the Heavenly Mandate Academy, preventing it from being damaged by the shockwaves from the battle in the sky. In the sky above, demonic light and divine light swept out. The two of them walked straight towards each other. Then, both of them punched out towards their opponent at the same time. There was no fancy display of technique. Both of them unleashed terrifying attacks with just their bodies straight towards their opponent. Bang! The sky shook violently. An unparalleled storm swept out around them. With both of them at the center, a frightening cyclone was formed. Their figures were not sent flying. Both of them stood there, straight and tall. Futian felt a menacing demonic light surge into his body. The demonic light contained unparalleled destructive power. It wanted to tear apart his flesh. However, the divine light of the great path circulated within him. His flesh was almost perfect and would not be destroyed so easily. Xiao Mu similarly felt a powerful shockwave surge up his arm and into his demonic form. However, his demonic form had also been honed and trained. In extraordinary locations in the devil world, it had undergone the baptism of countless strikes of demonic lightning. It was an immortal and indestructible body. Even 9th-tier Renowangs would have a hard time trying to destroy him. Yet Xiao Mu was surprised. Futian, who was clashing with him, had not been knocked back. He was taking Xiao Mu head-on. It was clear that Futian's body was indeed top-tier. To be able to encounter such an opponent, Xiao Mu was feeling somewhat excited. Menacing demonic light flowed, and absolute power gathered in his arm. Once again he punched out. Faced with his overbearing attack, an ordinary 8th-tier demonic emperor would be annihilated with a mere punch. He would not need to attack twice. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 23:13, Broadsword Will. Chapter 23:13, Broadsword Will. The physical body constructed by Xiao Mu was the super-destructive heavenly demon form, with extreme destructive power. Not only was his body tempered to perfection, but once it collided with an opponent, it could tear and destroy the opponent apart immediately. When he was still cultivating in the devil world, there was once a very well-known demonic figure behaving with arrogance and insolence. However, with his physical body alone, Xiao Mu could smash the opponent's demonic form to pieces, killing him. With the terror brought on by his super-destructive heavenly demon form, Futian's cultivation at 7th realm shouldn't be able to withstand even a single blow from him. However, the fact that Futian's physical body was strong enough to compete with him excited Xiao Mu inexplicably. At this moment, with Xiao Mu in the middle, a series of black streamers of silent destruction fell down and surrounded him. They began to spread outward, turning the vast space into a domain of silent destruction as well. Every one of these black streams of light seemed to contain the ultimate aura of destruction. The booming roars from Futian's body had become more intense. It seemed that there were many characters of the Great Path floating around him, a faint aura of swordsmanship circulating inside his body. It was as if his body had turned into a body of the sword. Futian had cast his physical body with the Wei, and it was his chosen medium of cultivation. As far as collisions of physical bodies were concerned, he wasn't afraid of anyone, even those considered major figureheads. He didn't think that his physical body would be weaker than his opponent, even if the Xiao Mu were personally taught by the Devil Emperor himself, who was also in possession of a body in the extreme with a higher realm. Still, he was not afraid of a physical confrontation. The two collided again. It was like an encounter between gods and demons. Above the firmament, two domineering bodies continued to collide, causing the sky to erupt with another violent howl. Even the space seemed to tremble. An extremely heavy sensation hung in the air. Streamers of pitch-black destructive light appeared upon Futian, rushing into his body. But there was also a destructive broadsword will that invaded deep inside Xiao Mu, intending on destroying his Wei. In the terrible trembling reverberation of the sounds, the expressions on their faces never changed. They appeared extremely calm, as if they were not affected at all, when in fact, such terrifying attacks would have already shattered anyone with lesser cultivation. Below, Those cultivators from the devil world shuddered inwardly. All of them were from the imperial palace of the devil world, and all of them were extraordinary cultivators. Clearly, they had a better idea than anyone else regarding the true strength of Xiao Mu's physical body. In their opinion, how could anyone from the land of the divine prefecture compete with the devil emperor's own direct disciple? However, Yi Futian not only collided with him head-on but also confronted him when he was one realm lower. Was this the power of the body inherited from that legendary Shenjia, the great emperor from the ancient days of yore? It seemed that in the land of divine prefecture, this once abandoned land in the original realm, a supremely enchanting genius had been born. This strength was no less than any top enchanting geniuses from the imperial palace. No wonder this man created so many legends in the original realm, someone whispered. So, did Xiao Mu know that this man is extraordinary? Was that why he deliberately came to the heavenly mandate realm? To fight with him? Someone asked. Many of them did not know about the relationship between Yi Futian and Yu Sheng, which was only known to a few. Perhaps. After all, this man is the #1 enchanting genius in the original realm. He should be proud of himself, given that he's able to fight Xiao Mu body to body, someone responded. But the outcome will remain the same. Someone looked up into the sky. This was not the ultimate state of Xiao Mu's super-destructive heavenly demonic form. Super-destructive heavenly demonic form was derived from the Devil Emperor's super-demonic form, so its power is shockingly terrifying. Even though his opponent had inherited the body refining method from Shenjia, the Great Emperor, Xiao Mu had inherited the body refining demonic method of the Devil Emperor. Therefore, they were confident that the winner of this physical battle would be Xiao Mu. The collision above the firmament became even more fierce. Again and again, the two met in the blasts, but not only did their momentum not weaken any, but it was getting more powerful than ever. The fierce roar of the great path in the firmament seemed to indicate it was on the verge of collapsing when these bodies would shatter the great path. In the battle, the demonic aura from Xiao Mu intensified so that it was even more horrific. It was as if he was no longer a human but instead was made of the flesh cast by the ultimate destructive thunder. As he lifted his hands, hundreds of thousands of black demonic currents flowing into every part of his body so that his every move contained frightening destructive power. Gradually, Xiao Mu's physical body seemed to have undergone another transformation during the battle. It was now completely pitch black, turning into the ultimate demonic body. Bang! There was another violent collision. The two banged against each other again, and at the moment of collision, Yi Futian felt an infinite destructive force rush into his body. Every part of his body was trembling and he was knocked back. This was the first time the two had been separated by so much distance. Yi Futian steadied himself and looked up at the other side. Xiao Mu stood there like a giant demon god at this moment. His eyes were pitch black and fixed on him, full of boundless dominance. He addressed Yi Futian directly. Not bad. I didn't expect to have to use my true strength against you. You deserve to be called the new king of the original realm. His voice was domineering and confident, even tinged with a certain disdain. Divine light flowing around Yi Futian as he looked at that demon body and said, "You are not too bad yourself. This will force me to be a bit more serious." Huh. Xiao Mu frowned. What did Yi Futian mean by force him to be a bit more serious? Did he mean that he didn't take it seriously before? His demonic eyes stared at Yi Futian, and he saw the divine light flowing on Yi Futian's body as an even more brilliant light burst from him. Faintly, he seemed to be hearing the sounds of Buddha and the divine light of the sun and the moon flowing about. The light reflected on that body, and a pattern was formed. Xiao Mu was somewhat alarmed. Before, was Yi Futian being casual, not using his full strength? In this instant, Yi Futian's body seemed to be howling fiercely like a terrifying behemoth, boundless divine splendor flowing about. His body moved forward and turned into a light, rushing straight towards Xiao Mu. At this moment, Xiao Mu's demonic eyes perceived Yi Futian as a deity, full of incomparable brilliance. Xiao Mu's eyes sharpened when he saw this before him. He looked extremely grave. He stepped forward, rocking the void as a massive demonic fist blasted forward, colliding with Yi Futian's fist. The people below looked above the firmament, and the two of them seemed to have transformed into real gods and demons. The great path was shattered with one blow. Then, under the shocking gazes of the cultivators from the devil world, Xiaomu's body was knocked away, flying backward. A terrible aura of destruction appeared on that dark demonic body, and the two extreme powers of sun and shadow wreaked havoc in his body. Even as the ultimate demonic body, it was difficult to bear such polarized bodies. The demonic light flowed as Xiaomu ground to a stop, staring at Yi Futian. He realized that he had, unexpectedly, lost to his opponent in the collision between physical bodies of the Great Path. The super-destructive heavenly demonic form was suppressed and repelled by the blow just now. In the exchange that truly mattered, he had lost. Steadying himself, demonic might roared from within Xiaomu. A terrible demonic domain appeared between heaven and earth, shrouding the boundless space. He stared at Yi Futian and appeared to have lost the edge of that arrogance, but his spirit of confidence and dominance remained. Although he had heard of Yi Futian's reputation and knew of his relationship with Yu Sheng, he never thought he would lose. Of course, the failure resulted from that physical collision didn't indicate a final outcome. Although cultivators of the demonic way tempered their physical bodies, it was definitely not the only thing that made them powerful. On top of everything, he was a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor. Above the firmament, pitch-black light streamers of demonic way flowed about and turned into demonic blades. A field of demonic blade appeared between heaven and earth. Infinite, pitch-black demonic blades moved about in the void, covering its vast terrain. The broadsword will was filled with endlessly fierce destruction and murderous intent. A horrible cloud of catastrophe gathered as if the power of dark thunder was converging. Behind him, a massive and boundless demonic blade appeared, capable of cutting through a corner of the sky. Xiaomu stretched out his hand, and the heaven and the earth suddenly let out a savage roar. In the storm of destruction, a pitch-black demonic blade appeared in his hand. Xiaomu grabbed the demonic blade, and an unparalleled destructive force burst out from him. Just that broadsword will alone seemed to tear through the power of the Great Path. When Yi Futian felt this power, his expression became grave. This broadsword will was indeed terrifying. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 23:14, The Blade and the Rod. Chapter 23:14, The Blade and the Rod. A strong broadsword will appeared in the entire field. Under this broadsword will, Yi Futian felt that everything he saw in front of him was changing. It was as if this place was no longer as it was previously. Instead, it was now filled with terrifying demon gods. These demon gods were each holding a demonic blade, standing in different positions, covering this corner of the sky. Terrifying broadsword will tore through the space, aiming toward him as if to crush his will completely. Just this broadsword will alone was enough to shock everyone into silence, capable of knocking them down. Any Renhuang who was not firm enough would doubtlessly crumble under this broadsword will, unable to bear its intimidation. Xiaomu held the blade in both hands. At this moment, all the demon gods in the heavens seemed to be holding the demonic blade in their hands as well. A fierce storm of destruction swept across the space. Before the blade was discharged, Yi Futian could sense the oppression of the broadsword will slashing down to suppress him, a pressure so heavy it was almost suffocating. It was simply astounding. Even when he was facing those at the peak of Renhuang in the 9th realm, Yi Futian had never experienced such intense oppression. Of course, it may be that someone at this level hadn't really collided with him in the real sense of the word. But there was no doubt that Xiaomu's own combat power was spectacularly horrific. After all, he was the direct disciple taught by the Devil Emperor himself and a Renhuang of the 8th realm. Once in the realm of Upper Renhuang, the gap in each step of the realm was significant, much like an insurmountable chasm. But Yi Futian was now facing a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor, who was an entire realm higher than him. The roar that erupted from Yi Futian's body of the Great Path became more fervent and violent. The broadsword will descended on his body but was unable to crush his will. There was a faint imperial divine glory shining upon him so that he appeared even more impressive. He had inherited the power of several great emperors. Among them, Shenjia the Great Emperor and Ziwei the Great were both extraordinary great emperor cultivators. Shenjia the Great Emperor had dared to challenge the heavens, while Ziwei the Great commanded several great emperors under him. Having inherited the incomparable powers of these two, Yi Futian had constructed an indestructible physical body and spiritual will. In short, he was not that easily shaken. Furthermore, as he felt that potent broadsword will, his body boomed. And an equally intimidating spirit manifested upon him as well. The starlight flowed upon his body, which seemed to transform into a starry sky world. At this moment, his physical body underwent another transformation. He became something like a divine body of the starry sky. Moreover, there was a terrifying howl of an ape that shook heaven and earth. Suddenly, strong coercion emerged as a massive war ape appeared behind Yi Futian. The war ape trampled above everything, and suddenly, the sky roared. The vast space seemed to solidify. This war ape, like a battle beast from the starry sky, was the starry war ape. An unusual vision appeared in the world behind Yi Futian. This sight before them made many cultivators trembled inside. What ability could cause such a vision to appear? Previously, they had not seen Yi Futian using it. The cultivators from Four Corner Village squinted their eyes as their hearts quivered. They had not anticipated Yi Futian to have cultivated this divine method to this degree. The Starry War Song, one of the 7 divine methods of Four Corner Village, could summon the Starry War Ape, whose presence was incredibly wild and menacing. Its attack power was unparalleled. This particular ability was controlled by Shi Kuei in Four Corner Village. At the same time, when Yi Futian unlocked the mysteries of Four Corner Village, he had also cultivated various secret methods. This was something known by all the cultivators from the village. Now, it seemed that Yi Futian was using another divine method from the Four Corner Village to fight against the disciple of the Devil Emperor. At this moment, Xiaomu raised the blade with both hands, and the demonic light circulated upon the demonic blade, forming a frightening sight. In this field, many illusions of the demon god seemed to raise their blades simultaneously, ready to strike. Even before the strike was unleashed, its power was already shocking. It was as if it could shatter this corner of the sky, and no one was capable of stopping it. Cultivators from the devil world below wore a solemn expression as their eyes fastened on Xiaomu, who was in the void. Even though Xiaomu's super-destructive heavenly demon form was physically defeated by Yi Futian, now boosted by the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon, what kind of earth-shattering destructive power would be discharged by this combination? They were expectant as well. It seemed that Xiaomu had never treated an opponent so seriously. Yi Futian had really angered Xiaomu, and that had pushed Xiaomu into his strongest state yet, gathering all his strength to battle with Yi Futian. Xiaomu took a step forward, and a majestic and massive figure of the demon god appeared above the firmament. It stood there, containing the most supreme majestic spirit to crush down on this space. In this area, under the figure of that demon god, everything was null, and all beings were inconsequential. 9 slashes of the heavenly demon contained 9 styles of strike, and each strike morphed to increase in strength. When the 9 strikes were released, even the heavenly demon would be cut down, hence the name. Xiaomu's hand slammed down. Even with cultivation as great as his, he needed to exert an incredible amount of strength to unleash this sword strike, as if on the verge of exhausting all of his energy to release it. Just this first strike alone seemed to have hollowed out his strength and spiritual energy. But at the same time, only when he smashed down with the blade did the cultivators around them realize what was happening. A pitch-black fissure appeared between heaven and earth, and everything was split open and pulverized. At the same time, the illusions of the demon god in their surrounding also mimicked their movements and struck. In this area of the Great Path, a series of blasting light of the blades cut through the void, destroying everything in their path. Even those major figureheads felt their hearts tremble when this strike was unleashed. It was simply too powerful. Just the first strike contained such horrific prowess. This was the true blade technique. Compared with the demonic blade in front of them, it seemed that what they had known before to be blade techniques couldn't be considered technique at all. Terrifying rumbling sounds were heard, and the vision of the great path around Futian was becoming more radiant as a starry world surrounded by countless stars was formed. When the blade light came down, the starry war ape howled into the heavens, and those surrounding stars created an unparalleled defensive force, blocking the invading broadsword will and those countless sword shadows. At the same time, a rod appeared in Futian's hand, as if it had been transformed by the stars. It was heavy, full of boundless and overbearing energy. When the blade slashed toward him, the rod blasted forth. These two terrifying forces met and collided in midair. The destructive demonic blade slashed through the shadow of the rod that had shattered the space. The power that erupted from the contact began to tear through the surrounding space. The great path was shattered into pieces, and cracks appeared where the attacks had occurred. Xiao Mu's combination was the super-destructive heavenly demon form aided by the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. However, Futian's divine body of the great path worked in sync with the starry war song from Four Corner Village and the power of the starry great path. The ultimate power exuded from this combination was unimaginably frightening. The storm of destruction still raged between the two. Xiao Mu's eyes were pitch black and impenetrable. His arm retracted as the blade returned between his hands, raised high above. Dark divine light of thunder fell and circulated upon the blade. An even more powerful demonic light rushed into the sky, and Xiao Mu unleashed the second strike without any hesitation. Each strike from the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon was stronger than the previous strike. Even Ren Huang at the peak couldn't survive just a couple of these slashes. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 23:15. The Air. Chapter 23:15. The Air. Xiao Mu unleashed the second strike, and it was like an angry roar from the demon god. The blade opened up the sky, carving out a series of horrific destructive fissures. Futian raised his head and saw a gigantic and boundless demonic blade slashing towards him, like a strike from the demon god himself. Boom! Surrounded by starlight, heaven and earth seemed to solidify. The starry power was everywhere, so the space felt tremendously heavy. The starry war ape roared madly as Futian picked up a long rod and smashed it down. This shocking blow wanted to shatter the sky but collided with the demonic blade that blasted at him instead. The collision resulted in an eruption of terrible divine light that was hard for anyone to behold. There was a loud rumbling noise, and the surrounding great path seemed to be exploding in a most horrific manner. Nonetheless, this strike had been blocked and could not obliterate Futian or get anywhere near him. This blow, at best, was barely adequate. It seemed that even the 9 slashes of heavenly demon couldn't crush Futian's attack, and these two had met their match in each other. The hearts of the cultivators below palpitated, especially those top figures from the devil world. Xiao Mu unleashed the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon with all his might. Its power had already come close to threaten even peak-level Ren Huang. However, the second strike of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon did not seem to pose a real threat to Futian because it had been successfully blocked by him. The starry war ape, as well as the power of the stars, and his body in the great path, were all extremely awesome. Multiple powers now blended into one, perfectly erupting from the center that was Futian. The power that erupted was no lesser than Xiao Mu's 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. It seemed that to defeat Futian, the second strike from the 9 slashes was far from sufficient. The force of the second blow hadn't completely dissipated before Xiao Mu took another step forward. There were terrible fissures in the surrounding space as the great path seemed to be torn and destroyed. Another wave of broadsword will gathered once again as if overlapping and reinforcing blade momentum from before. It was getting stronger. A terrifying coercion blasted down as the sky howled. The great path roared as those demon gods appeared, like some heavenly demons. Another strike appeared, blooming with a world-destroying demonic light, overlapping again with the blade momentum from before. They seemed to land on the same track and smash down in the same trajectory. But it was heavier, stronger, and more uncompromising. The third strike of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon was already the most exquisite of the first 3 strikes and also the strongest. This offensive technique was a mass-slaughtering technique created by the Devil Emperor when he was besieged and suppressed by numerous demon emperors when he was unifying the Devil world. The 9 slashes of the heavenly demon had beheaded countless demon emperors, terrorized the Devil world until it was flattened by him. Before he proclaimed his reign, he had always been hailed as one of the terrifying existences in the history of the Devil world. He was the first enchanting genius since the collapse of the heavenly path, whose name was known throughout the past and the present. After his proclamation as the emperor, many thought that the Devil Emperor was no lesser than the legendary Devil Emperors of ancient times. He wanted to become the first person in the history of the Devil world to unify the Devil world itself and unify the outside world. The blade technique created by the Devil Emperor was intimidating, to say the least. It was said that when the Devil Emperor deployed the 8th strike, it was almost near invincible, and no one could stop his blade. The staff technique converged again, blasting toward that 3rd strike. However, this time it was not as before, as the staff shadow was shattered. Even though it was able to block that scary strike, it's the first time Futian's staff technique was suppressed. He was repelled back a few steps. It was not that his own strength was any lesser than that of Xiao Mu, but that the attacking technique he deployed was not on par with the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. After all, this was the ultimate slaughtering technique created by the Devil Emperor. The cultivators from the Devil world were a little relieved when they beheld this sight. Although Futian was very powerful, the opponent he was facing was Xiao Mu. No matter how strong he was, how could he possibly compete with the Devil Emperor's direct disciple, especially when this disciple's realm was higher than his? Futian's inheritance was, after all, from the great emperors of yore, and the Devil Emperor was a great emperor who existed in the world right now. However, if Futian and Xiao Mu were in the same realm, Xiao Mu would probably lose this battle in the end. If he had to battle with such difficulties in a situation where his realm was higher, it only served to accentuate Futian's natural talent and the strength of his combat effectiveness. As the first genius talent of the original realm, this young king of the original realm, indeed, did not disappoint. His prestige was not in name only. Otherwise, with so many top figures hanging around, how could he become the king of the original realm? Xiao Mu looked relieved when he saw that Futian was repelled by the 3rd strike. His dark eyes glanced at Futian. He thought that he had finally backed down. Futian had shown signs of defeat with that 3rd strike, but it wasn't enough. He wanted to destroy Futian, and this was just the 3rd strike. After the blade smashed down, its momentum did not disappear. On the contrary, it became stronger. There seemed to be a resonance in this area of heavenly demon. Those demon gods seemed to mimic the same actions as Xiao Mu, raising their blades. In the vast and boundless space, many demon gods raised their blades at the same time, and these forces resonated with one another. Before the blade was released, a terrible slaughtering and destructive power had already swept toward Futian, with the potential to destroy everything. Futian had retreated at the 3rd strike, so the next 2 strikes should end the battle. Xiao Mu thought the 4th strike was gathering momentum, and the storm was getting more terrifying, raging in this space. The storm was capable of slaughtering ordinary Renhuang as it contained incredible power of ruination. Futian sensed this power, and there was a divine light flashing through his eyes, and it seemed to become heavier still. The roar in his body became more violent and fierce, however. Characters flew out as his body morphed with the way. It became something far more terrifying. At the same time, there was a divine light shining at his brow chakra, akin to imperial glory. He looked even more dazzling, like some heavenly deity. The stars in the sky centered around Futian with just one thought, and the starry glory surrounded him. A phantom of Futian seemed to appear on every star, and at the moment, Futian seemed to be everywhere, becoming one with this starry sky. When the terrifying demonic blade came in for the kill, it collided with the starry field and was blocked by the light screen, it failed to come close to Yi Futian. With his body as the center, the stars had formed an absolute field of power, and this area of the Great Path was inching toward the other, on the prowl to invade. Yi Futian's body floated in the center of this starry world, surrounded by countless starry divine lights that showered upon him. The cultivators below watched Yi Futian, their hearts beating wildly. Whether it was cultivators from the Devil World or the Heavenly Mandate Academy, the hearts of those cultivators palpitated. The cultivators from Ziwei, especially, were more electrified now than ever. Yi Futian was like the true heir of Ziwei the Great. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 23:16, Victory and Defeat. Chapter 23:16, Victory and Defeat. The changes to Yi Futian similarly caused the hearts of the cultivators of the Devil World to tremble. Before this, when they saw Yi Futian being pushed back, they had believed the battle to be over. However, it seemed that they were too optimistic. This battle was just beginning. Xiao Mu grew stronger and stronger. Yi Futian also rose to the occasion. He kept unleashing new abilities. He had not been going all out at all since the start of the battle. This made the top figures of the Devil World feel somewhat surreal. A 7th-tier cultivator actually dared not go all out when facing an 8th-tier direct disciple of the Devil Emperor. How confident was Yi Futian in his own abilities? An instant change appeared in Xiao Mu's demonic eyes. Yet, the more powerful Yi Futian grew, the more it seemed to stir up Xiao Mu's fighting spirit. His battle spirit was ablaze right now. A storm swept out, and the silhouettes of the demons in the sky moved, resonating with him. Lifting the blade with both his hands, all the power of the Great Path in Xiao Mu's body surged into the demonic blade. It caused demonic light from the blade to pierce the heavens. Terrifying clouds covered the skies. The scene before the crowd was astonishing. On the other side, with Yi Futian's figure as the center, divine starlight shone extremely brightly. His body radiated with imperial glory. Bathed in the divine light, Yi Futian was like a true god. Stars circled around him. His shadow was on each of the stars, as though he controlled all of them. But Xiao Mu slashed down for the 4th time. With this slash, the various demons in the sky also slashed down with their demonic blades at the same time. Frightening cracks appeared in the sky, ripping apart all of existence. Against these demonic blades, no one could survive. Boom, boom, boom. The demonic blades met with resistance this time. They cleaved down on the stars that filled the sky. The stars that circled around Yi Futian's figure formed a light shroud of stars. The blade will of the demons were all blocked off by these stars. Only the domineering blade in the middle, which was the one of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon unleashed by Xiao Mu, cleaved the light shroud apart. At the same time, it shattered a star before it. It was as though no defensive power could withstand this blade. However, the people down below could all sense that the might of this blade had already been weakened. It would most likely be difficult for Xiao Mu to end Yi Futian with this slash. As expected, when the astonishing blade slashed down, countless runes appeared around Yi Futian's body and formed an absolute domain of stars. The blade will flashed, but it could not break through the defense of the stars. Cracks appeared on the stars. Then, the momentum of the blade was halted, and it could not advance any further. As the cultivators beneath the sky watched, endless blade will landed on the stars. It caused cracks to form on the stars. However, the stars were not shattered, and they had successfully blocked this ferocious attack. Was this the defensive technique passed down through the teachings of Great Emperor Ziwei? Many people down below thought. Great Emperor Ziwei was one of the most famous Great Emperor figures in the ancient era. He was a marvel of his time. How powerful was he? Rumor has it that Great Emperor Ziwei could control the various stars in the sky. He was the ruler of a segmentum. Such an extraordinary figure must have certainly cultivated powerful techniques. However, the various cultivators had never seen them before. They had only caught a glimpse of such techniques from observing Renhuang Chen during his battles. Now, Yi Futian seemed to be unleashing the power of the teachings he inherited from great Emperor Ziwei. How powerful would this technique be? The defensive power of this technique was evident. The fourth blade was blocked. Xiao Mu initially thought that the previous 2 slashes were enough to end the battle. Unfortunately, he was wrong. By now, he had exhausted much of his strength. Each and every slash of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon took a huge toll on the user. It was already awe-inspiring for Xiao Mu to be able to unleash 4 slashes. Xiao Mu slashed down for the 5th time. His 5th slash was even more powerful than the 4th. The momentum was even more astonishing. The 5th slash caused cracks to form on many stars around Yi Futian. The defensive light shroud before Yi Futian shattered into pieces after being cleaved into half. Although Yi Futian still managed to block this 5th slash, the stars were on the verge of crumbling. It was as though they would be destroyed at any second. Xiao Mu didn't underestimate Yi Futian. From his perspective, if Yi Futian hadn't unleashed the power he inherited from great Emperor Ziwei, the 5th slash would have certainly ended the battle. This 5th blade was absolutely domineering, yet it was still not enough to defeat Yi Futian. Right now, Xiao Mu felt too exhausted to press on. He took a step forward. He was akin to a demon as his gaze locked on Yi Futian. Xiao Mu proclaimed, "This next slash should end the battle." He couldn't afford to drag the battle any longer. It caused a huge amount of damage to himself as he unleashed each slash of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. While the slashes were very formidable, they also consumed much of the strength of the user. Xiao Mu needed to maintain both his flesh and mind at their peak state to truly unleash the might of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. Otherwise, his attack would have the form but not the essence of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. It would not retain its might too. Boom! A terrifying demonic aura enveloped Xiao Mu. The cultivators from the devil world narrowed their eyes in shock. What was Xiao Mu planning to do? Was he going to send out a frenzy slash? Yi Futian stood still on his spot. He looked plainly at Xiao Mu. He was akin to an almighty god. There was absolute confidence shining in his eyes. He was more or less certain about Xiao Mu's level of ability. From the looks of it, the 6th slash would be Xiao Mu's limit. If Xiao Mu could slash down the 7th time, it was possible for him to defeat Yi Futian. If Xiao Mu could slash down the 8th time, Yi Futian would surely lose. Unfortunately, there was no what if. The 6th slash would be Xiao Mu's last slash. And Yi Futian was confident that he could block this 6th slash. It should be said that Yi Futian didn't intend to block it. Instead, he would retaliate. Boom! Xiao Mu's body changed as he grew larger and larger. He merged with the demons in the sky and transformed into a demon himself. He wielded the blade with both his hands. When his blade will burst forth, terrifying fissures formed in the space. At this moment, Yi Futian felt threatened. He finally moved. An illusory figure appeared above Yi Futian's body. The illusory figure seemed to be Yi Futian himself. It was surrounded by divine light and abnormal phenomena. Yi Futian transformed into a deity and became one with the stars. Endless divine light of the stars shone on him. With his body as the center of the stars, an intimidating power gushed forth. Dazzling divine halos shone brightly. A sword appeared in front of Yi Futian. The celestial force all around Yi Futian rushed into the sword, causing it to keep expanding. It grew larger and transformed into a true starry divine sword. Xiao Mu slashed down. The 6th slash of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon caused the sky to dim as it charged towards Yi Futian. It could even slaughter gods. At the same time, the stars around Yi Futian became one as endless starlights surged into the sword. Yi Futian raised his arm and thrust the sword forward. The divine sword and the demonic blade collided head-on. Rumble! It was as though the world was falling apart. Apart from the divine sword, many stars cracked and shattered into pieces. The stars took the place of the starry divine sword to bear the power of the demonic blade. On the other hand, the blade was also trembling violently. It was similarly enduring an unparalleled power. One by one, the stars cracked and disintegrated. However, the divine light on the starry divine sword shone more and more brilliantly. It suppressed everything that was in its way, causing cracks to start forming on the demonic blade too. Bang! As cracks began to appear on the demonic blade, Xiaomu let out a dull groan. His face was pale. He had unleashed 6 slashes out of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. Yet, it was still insufficient to defeat Yi Futian. The blade and the sword were both destroyed. One after the other, they broke into pieces. Yi Futian looked at Xiaomu and said, "If you could unleash the 7th slash today, the loser would be me." He stood still and his tone was calm. It was as though the victor of the battle had been determined. This exchange between the two had indeed determined the victor. At least, that was what Yi Futian surmised. As for whether or not this fight would continue, it depended on Xiaomu. If they continued fighting, the result would not change as long as Xiaomu didn't unleash the 7th slash. Xiaomu stood in midair quietly. His demonic will was not as rampant as before. He looked at Yi Futian and didn't refute his words. It was as though he silently agreed to what Yi Futian had said. Not defeating Yi Futian with the 6th slash meant that Xiaomu had lost the fight. Xiaomu was not able to slash down for the 7th time. If he could unleash the 7th slash, the loser would surely be Yi Futian. Even Yi Futian admitted this. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 23:17, Secret of the Devil World. Chapter 23:17, Secret of the Devil World. The outcome of their battle was decided. Down below, the cultivators of the Devil World were quite restless when they saw this scene before them. Xiaomu had actually been defeated. Even the 6th slash of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon still could not take down Yi Futian. It had been blocked. After the power that Yi Futian inherited from Shunjia the Great Emperor and Great Emperor Ziwei burst forth, even the 8th tier Xiaomu could not touch him at all. After this slash, Xiaomu was already worn out. Unleashing the 6th slash of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon had already drained all his strength. He had reached his peak condition right before that moment. However, after the slash, he had now slumped into a phase of weakness. Moreover, his demonic blade was shattered by Yi Futian. Yet, Yi Futian was not affected much. Right now, he was still in peak condition. His entire body was shining brightly. Brilliant divine halos radiated from his body. It was unparalleled. It looked as though he could unleash his previous attack once more at any moment. Hence, both of them knew the outcome of this battle. There was no need to continue fighting. Xiaomu admitted his defeat. This young ruler of the Heavenly Mandate realm was actually this strong. The various cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate academies secretly heaved sighs of relief. They were also moved. Yi Futian had surpassed the boundary of planes and defeated Xiaomu, a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor. It would be hard to find someone on the same plane as Yi Futian who could contend with him in various worlds. Even if there were such figures, there would not be many of them. They would truly be rare specimens and would be monstrous figures who stood at the pinnacle of their worlds. They were looking forward to Yi Futian's growth even more. When he reached the peak of the Renhuang Plain and experienced a divine tribulation of the Great Path, how glorious would that day be? The ruler of the original realm would truly be able to shock the cultivators of various worlds. No one would dare trespass in the original realm. Yi Futian would become the absolute leader of the original realm. In a tavern in the distance, Mei Ting raised a cup of wine and drank from it. Before the battle began, even he did not know who would emerge as the victor. He was also very interested in this battle. Now that it had ended, he seemed to have a better understanding of Yi Futian's combat ability. After all, for Mei Ting, Xiaomu was a good opponent for Yi Futian and could check on Yi Futian's ability. Did that person train Yi Futian to this level? It should have been impossible. That person did not have the time to do so. From what Mei Ting learned from Yu Sheng and the abilities that Yi Futian displayed, their abilities were not related to that person at all. Even for Yu Sheng, that person had merely passed on a set of demonic arts for Yu Sheng to train himself. So, Yi Futian's achievements were all related to the fateful encounters that he had. Aside from being lucky and having many opportunities for him to have come so far in his cultivation, it also meant that he was extraordinary to begin with. He was very talented. His real identity was even more intriguing now. "Let's go," commanded Xiao Mu. Then he flew up to the sky and left the Heavenly Mandate Academy. He was a little weak. Moreover, it was meaningless for him to hang around any longer now that he had lost. The top cultivators from the Devil World took a good look at Yi Futian. Then, one by one, they flew up to the sky. Traversing the clouds, they left the place along with Xiao Mu. Soon, the group disappeared of those on the ground. Only a tint of demonic aura was left lingering in the sky. The cultivators in the Heavenly Mandate Academy collectively heaved a sigh of relief after the demonic cultivators left. The latter emanated an imposing pressure on the rest of them. Even Renhuang Chen had his guard up the whole time while the demonic cultivators were around. If the group from the Devil World initiated an attack against them, it would put them in great danger. No one dared to act recklessly. After all, the incomers were cultivators from the Devil Imperial Palace. Fortunately, the source of the pressure had disappeared now. The demonic cultivators leaving meant that the crisis was over. Yi Futian looked in the direction where the demonic cultivators had disappeared to. He appeared calm and showed no sign of joy upon winning a battle. During the battle, he also sensed the immense pressure imposed by the direct disciple of the Devil Emperor. It was Yi Futian's first time encountering an opponent who could clash head-on with him just with his flesh. Furthermore, the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon posed a threat to him. What would happen to him if one of the direct disciples of the Devil Emperor mastered the 7th, or even the 8th, slash? How could Yi Futian possibly defend himself against such a figure? How about the Devil Emperor himself? What kind of person was he? Renhuang Yi is indeed an unparalleled figure. Even an 8th-tier direct disciple of the Devil Emperor has lost to you, a cultivator from the Song Imperial City said to Yi Futian. The cultivator was very impressed by him. The wish of the cultivator to become acquainted with Yi Futian grew even stronger now. This battle had once again verified Yi Futian's talent. He was a bona fide exceptional figure able to defeat a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor. Most likely, very few people in the Divine Prefecture were comparable to Yi Futian now. I got lucky. If he mastered the 7th slash, I would most likely not have been able to withstand his attack. Yi Futian spoke humbly. Does Senior know anything about the Devil Emperor? What kind of person is he? The current Devil Emperor is a living legend in the Devil World. He became famous even before Donghuang the Great did. Before Donghuang the Great unified the Divine Prefecture, the Devil Emperor had already ended the era of various demons fighting over the Devil World. He unified the entire Devil World. People claimed that no one, past or future, could compare to him. Not only would he inherit the glory of the Devil Emperors of the ancient era, he even wanted to bring it to new heights. Bring it to new heights? Asked Yi Futian as his heart trembled. Said the cultivator from the Song Imperial City as he nodded his head. I heard that he previously tried to do so. Yi Futian's heart was racing. After unifying the Devil World, the Devil Emperor wanted to bring it to new heights. Yi Futian naturally understood what that meant. The Devil Emperor had wanted to conquer other worlds and claim them all for his own. He had even attempted to do so before. What had happened back then? Did the Devil Emperor have incredible figures beside him who were very close to him? Asked Yi Futian. The cultivator from the Song Imperial City had a pensive look. He softly said, I have heard of a secret, though I do not know whether or not it is true. This matter seems to be unknown to many. Even among the top forces, it is but a rumor that goes around. It is impossible to verify its legitimacy. What secret? Asked Yi Futian. The cultivator from the Song Imperial City continued. There were previously 2 prominent figures in the Devil World. It was not just the Devil Emperor alone. He had a brother. However, later on, this brother of his would disappear without a trace. Rumors claimed that he had betrayed the Devil Emperor. Others claimed that he had died at the hands of the Devil Emperor. There could only be one ruler of the Devil World. This caused Yi Futian's heart to beat even faster. He could faintly sense that he was approaching the truth soon. It was just that even the top figures of the Song Imperial City knew very little about it. They had only rumors to go by, and they could not even verify the legitimacy of the information. The brother of the Devil Emperor? Then, what was Yu Sheng's status? If what the other party claimed was true, then the brother of the Devil Emperor clearly had not died and had always been by Yu Sheng's side. He became a lonely, frail old man. No one knew his status and who he was. However, why would such a terrifying figure claim to be a slave? Yi Futian could not wrap his head around this. What was the story behind all this? This information itself might be incorrect, and that person was not the brother of the Devil Emperor. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.